We now turn to the second matter before this House, the state of the rice industry in Guyana. The Honourable Member, Mr. Mohammed Irfaan Ali, will move the following motion. Mr. Ali, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today we are debating an essential and very important motion dealing with the rice industry. Mr. Speaker, the rice industry, as we know, is not only a component of the economic framework of our country, but the rice industry is an industry that provides economic and social well-being to a number of persons in our population. In some regions, this economic activity accounts for more than 95% of the economic well-being of the people. It is therefore imperative on us as leaders to understand that rice cannot be isolated as private business. Rice is indeed an integral and important aspect of national life. And if, for a moment, we believe that we can ignore the woes of the rice farmers, if we for a moment believe that we can ignore the hardships of the rice farmers, if we for a moment believe that we can deny the rice farmers of much needed affordable benefits, affordable to the government, benefits and support that will sustain, secure and safeguard the livelihood of thousands of people across this country, then we are making a fundamental social and economic mistake. A fundamental social and economic mistake. Mr. Speaker, the negligence of the government, the incompetence of the government in dealing with the issue of rice, in understanding the seriousness of rice and its import to this country, leaves much to be desired. We woke up a long time ago. That is why when we were in government, Mr. Speaker, we consistently gave benefits, we consistently provided support mechanism for the farmers and the rice industry. And we are not asking for anything more or anything less. All we are asking for, Mr. Speaker, is for those existing support that the PDP civic government gave to the rice farmers be restored. That is all that we are asking. We are not asking, Mr. Speaker, we are not asking, I will tell you in a moment what the support is. We are not asking for a moment, Mr. Speaker, for the government to implement the promise that they made to the rice farmers. They have to be held accountable for the promise they made and how they left the rice how they abandoned the rice farmers with that promise. That is something they have to explain. But what we are asking for is for the sustainability of the sector based on the framework and the policy that the PDP civic government left. That is all we are asking for. Mr. Speaker, rice, the total loan to the rice sector is $9 billion. Let us not for a moment believe, Mr. Speaker, that rice is isolated from the financial framework of this country. Rice plays a key role, an important role in the financial architecture of the country. $9 billion. $9 billion exposure in the banking sector. Can we understand what $9 billion of exposure in the banking sector means? It is 5%. Of course, the Honorable Member Bennett doesn't know what it means. He doesn't. And I understand he don't. Because he had a period when he showed the nation he did not know what it means. Mr. Speaker, it is 5% of the total loans. What is worse, Mr. Speaker, is if we look at non-performing loans. In December 2013, non-performing loans in the agriculture sector was $1,397 million. In December 2015, non-performing loans in the agricultural sector is $4,214 million. Can we understand this? Worse than this, Mr. Speaker, 43% of the non-performing loan in the agriculture sector is as a result of paddy. Is as a result of paddy. 43% of the non-performing loans in the agricultural sector is as a result of paddy, the paddy category, accounting for 43%. Mr. Speaker, as I speak on this motion, the state of the rice industry in Guyana is in what I would describe as a catastrophic. It is in a catastrophic place.
You're living in some bubbles.
But we are living in a time when, although 6 months ago, 5,000 acres of rice was planted in Leguan, today 0 acres of rice is planted in that island. The last crop, they had 34 acres and they lost all. But worse than this, up to today, the Minister of Agriculture has not visited those persons in Leguan.
Shame.
I spoke to the farmers a week ago. And they were dismayed.
No empathy.
They were dismayed at the way they were treated. In Wakenham, the story is the same. In Essequibo, the story is the same. Mr. Speaker, the government is faced with a moral dilemma. And the moral dilemma the government is faced with is that they have to explain to the people why their promise of 9,000 a bag cannot be materialized, but the very government can find the resources to increase their salaries by 50%. It's a moral dilemma. And they're afraid to face the farmers to explain this moral dilemma. Mr. Speaker,
So you admit that you can't face them?
You're accusing people of cheating?
The Prime Minister
according
said
to the United States Department of Agriculture, Situation and Outlook report dated April 14, 2016, the 2015-2016 global production forecast was lowered by 0.5 million tons,
You like to accuse people of cheating.
nearly 2% below a year earlier, and the smallest in 4 years.
Cheap shots.
Production forecasts were lowered also in Brazil, Pakistan, Philippines, and Vietnam.
You'll find out about some $100 million your end.
Mr. Speaker,
Find out.
this situation presents an opportunity for us. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is very essential and imperative that we work with the farmers and producers to ensure that we continue to produce increasingly with intentions to meeting the shortage. Mr. Speaker, we are in a situation based on the forecast for 2015-2016 that there is no glut on the market. There is a shortage on the market. Demand is outstripping supply. And yet, the government cannot find an innovative way to ensure that Guyana plays a key and critical role in meeting this demand. Instead, Mr. Speaker, we are having a reduction in our production. And of course, when you examine markets, you cannot take persons who don't understand the rice industry to negotiate. Because when they go to Mexico, and the people in Mexico tell them that we need rough price, and they don't understand that rough price is paddy, then we have difficulties. If they don't know that rough price is paddy, then we have difficulties. If the government is serious, they must have professionals. They can't have bluffers. Bluffers is for here locally. The bluffers and fluffers will be exposed. But Mr. Speaker, let us get professional negotiators, persons who can target market and find the resources, find the way in which we can benefit from those markets.
Well, at least
Mr. Speaker,
that's what we say. We don't understand.
Moses rough rice